Hello everyone, and this is a recap for this first program we asked you to fork. This program is explaining a bit more detail about the scanf function, and it also shows you a clever way on how to validate user input. So let's go look at the code. This is the code you would have forked and saved onto your into your own Finder. I called it validate user input. You can call it whatever you like. So it's a simple program that just reads two numbers from the user and echoes back what the user typed or entered. If they entered something valid. If they entered something invalid, then it reports an error. So let's run the program first, and then we'll talk about how it does it. So let's run it. And it's very simple. It just prompts for two numbers. I'll give it 4, 5, 6. Whoops, sorry. Let me just get inside the terminal window. Okay, enter 4, 5, 6. And I want the other number to be, I don't know, 24. Doesn't matter. And so it just echoes back the two numbers I typed in. Now let's run it again with some bad data. So I'm going to enter 4, 5, 6 again, and then I'm going to enter DOG, which is obviously not a number. And it reports an error. Input must be numeric. So how is it doing that? Now, we've had some trouble performing this kind of validation. Ingrid has done this in her program, and I've based on what Ingrid did and a little bit more research, I've come up with a slightly different way of doing it. Ryan also made a very good stab at this as well. So let's start from the top. So we just defined a couple of variables up here. These are the two variables where we'll store the user's input. And we're going to record the result of the scanf function in this variable. I'll explain what that means in a minute. So we just prompt the user, enter two numbers, and then we scan, or we attempt to scan, two whole numbers from the user. Now the scanf function returns a value. In addition to storing what the user typed in into these two values, it also returns another value, which is really the error code. Now, if scanf is able to scan in two whole numbers successfully in this case, then the result is a 2. If it's not able to scan, let's say it only scanned 1, well then the result should be 1, and if it didn't scan anything, the result would be 0. So 0 is bad. And in our case, anything but a 2 for the scan result indicates something's wrong. So here we validate the user input and we say if the scan result is 2, then we know it scanned in two numbers, and we simply echo those numbers back to the user. Now if this is not equal to 2, now we have to remove the bad data that the user typed in and then report an error. And this is the magic line, line number 23. Now if I zoom in on that so you get a little closer look, this might look a little cryptic, but let's try and unravel this thing. So we have a while loop, and it is reading, get character means read a character from the buffer. Now, back to line 12. When you do the scanf, the user's input goes into a buffer, and it's from that buffer that scanf tries to retrieve these two numbers. So user types something on the screen, presses enter. When they press the enter key, their input is stored in a buffer. It's called the standard input buffer. And then scanf tries to read data from that buffer. Now if they put in junk, as we saw in the second example, we have to get that junk out of the buffer. Scanf wasn't able to read it, so it remains in the buffer and we have to get it out. And that's what this is doing. So it's reading characters from the buffer until it finds the end of the line. So as long as it has not reached the end of the line, it keeps reading characters. Now, what is this semicolon doing here? This is an empty statement, which does nothing. Now, you'll see this. Experienced programmers will write it. Whoops, sorry. Sorry, guys. I have to zoom out to edit the code. Experienced programmers will edit it or write it like this. Now, I'm just going to type some blank lines so I can get to the center of the screen. Now, if you wanted to write this in a verbose way, you could do this. And let's take that semicolon and put it over here. This is the same thing. So we have this while block here, and while this condition is true, namely, while the character we just read is not the end of the line, do whatever's in the block. Well, what's in the block? Well, there's just this one. What happened to am I not scrolled? Oh, did I go full screen or something? Seem to have lost my line numbers. I don't know. I think I'm zoomed in somehow. Anyway, so this is a valid statement. It just doesn't do anything. And that's what we want. We don't want to do anything except keep reading characters from the buffer until we hit the end of the line, and then we fall through to the end of the while loop, and we print the error message. So this is a way to flush the buffer. Now, there is a function in the I/O library called fflush, and I'm not sure why that is not having the same effect that this has. I have to do a little more research. But if you want to validate user input, this is one way to reject or detect, in this case, non-numeric data, and reject it and also get rid of it. Okay, that's it for now. On to the next video.